Today you go bicycling in Aveiro, at the west coast of Portugal. You'll discover the Rio de Aveiro, a lagoon which separates not only the land and the ocean, but also its two unique parts of the town, the Costa Nova by the sea and the old city center of Aveiro, where you start your bicycle trip. And the first thing you do is deviating from the route. Initially you plan to make your way out of the city center straight away, but you can't resist taking your bike out for a spin in the old town. Not too much of a bad idea, using your time to warm up before you get back on the route. The alley you turned into and looked quite promising doesn't fail to meet all the expectations, as it opens into a cute little square which you go around once. For a little bit you're immersing in Portuguese culture, observing the adorable colorful houses and listening to the traditional music. You're perceiving a very relaxed atmosphere here that gives you a pleasant feeling. No wonder some people call it Europe's secret most romantic city. Still, you quickly realize that it's not the best place here to ride a bike. And thus you turn right back into the alley which will lead you on the route out of the city center. You let your eyes wander from the left to the right and back, choosing every few seconds another colorful house which you're entitled to be your favorite one. This little side trip was definitely worth it. You wouldn't want to have missed out on those insights of the city, and also that perfectly served as a brief warm-up for your muscles. It's gonna be a 15 kilometers ride, and even though it's not making the impression to become overly exhausting, it's not wrong at all to start off with the muscles a little warmed up. Leaving the city center and with it the gathering of people allows you to go a little faster. And you're approaching one of the town's canals, you finally understand why this town is called the Venice of Portugal. The canals, the bridges and the so-called moliceiros boats give first of all a stunning picture, and secondly a picture very similar to famous Venice in Italy. Soon you're leaving behind the old town. You turn on your inner motor and start pedaling a little faster. The canal gets wider, while the track's nearly so narrow that you'd fall off the bicycle. Not only due to the narrow track, but also you're trying to get a picture of the area while pushing. Having successfully mastered the narrow path, the next little obstacle lies right in front of you. You're about to encounter the first little ascent, which is not of great height. But not having had expected any inclination at the coast, you hit the pedal even harder, facing this which doesn't even deserve the label hill, as if you were about to climb the Mount Everest. However, the momentum you gain going down your Mount Everest totally compensates this unexpected effort, you admit while starting to push again. Just quite a bit slower than before. You're not in a rush, you're aiming to steadily move forward on your bicycle. That's the trade-off, not going full speed and instead keep moving without brakes, you negotiate with yourself. Right now you're following the road along the lagoon. It's quite a contrast, you notice. After this explosion of impressions at the beginning, you enjoy those quieter moments, the peaceful calm lagoon with its shallow water that allow you to focus on nothing else except riding the bicycle. Having covered quite a distance in the last few minutes without considerable change of surroundings, you're now entering another part of the town, which is not as famous as the other two, or better said, not famous at all, but you have to go through on your way to the town by the sea. It's not as pretty and unique as what you've seen earlier, still you like the style and the colors of the houses, which you assume are inspired by the ones in the old town. It seems to be a residential area, with no more than a few shops for everyday needs, a cafe, and a church that pops up along the road. After a while following this seemingly endlessly long road, you're starting to doubt whether you're still on the route, and look around in search of any signs indicating which way leads to Costa Nova, but neither on the right nor on the left you can find any hints. Normally when going on a sports trip you only roughly plan the route, but now you got the urge you need to look on a map. The red lights that come in handy provide enough time to have a quick look on a phone. And your gut feeling was right, you missed a left turn earlier, right where you spot the church. But not too bad, you take the next left turn which would bring you back on the route. This road more or less starts like the other one ended. Pretty quiet and with cute colorful houses, especially on your right side. As they are built so close to the street you get a close look on the tiles and the patterns which you didn't notice that clearly earlier. You find joy in observing all these houses a bit more in detail. It's a whole lot more interesting here than you expected. Time flies by so fast as you keep looking around, getting the chance to look over the fence of some of the properties. Lots of them having a lemon tree with huge fruits in the front yard, and that way getting an idea of how people live in Portugal far from the tourist spots. After following the straight road for quite long, suspiciously long, you're starting to worry if you got lost again. But eventually you spot the big road that leads to your destination. Passing the last houses of this town and approaching a field, you realize that this marks about the half of the entire distance. Probably already a little more, as you remember that you made a few extra miles at the beginning and a detour in this town too. Here we go, you say out loud. After a left turn, you spot a proper cycleway, which you turn into turning to the right. That's a big upside. Just having to follow the cycleway with no turns that could be missed makes it a lot easier. The only downside, the surroundings are not that pretty and worth seeing. At least now that you're sure that you're on the right track and no turns that you could miss, you feel safe to take up speed pedaling a little more powerful and fast. What doesn't change a lot right now are your surroundings. It's really not a lot going on here, just the road to your left and a field to the right. So you decide now that you've got lots of visual impressions of the country to listen to what Portuguese music is like. You put on a song, which also makes it a lot easier to keep pedaling. Music never fails to lift your motivation. And whilst diving into the sounds of Portuguese music, you made quite some progress. You left behind the fields and now found yourself on the bridge which is crossing the lagoon and connects the two parts of the town. As soon as you entered the bridge, you felt quite a strong breeze, which you wouldn't mind if it wasn't blowing straight in your face, making the pedaling double as hard. Alright, challenge accepted, you talk to yourself. You take a sighting of your next target at the end of this long bridge and start styling into the pedal even harder than before. The panorama to your right is splendid, so you let your gaze wander, which distracts you from a strong breeze that just wouldn't fade away. You're trying to go as slow as possible to avoid the strong headwind that's still hitting in your face. No doubt, the view is pretty, you say to yourself. Just a little less wind and I could even enjoy it. Anyway, in the very back behind the first houses of the Costa Nova, you're getting to see the ocean, but that isn't the goal today. The blue sea could be a beautiful end scene too. However, what you're awaiting, at least you hope so, is something way more colorful. If I ever manage to cross this bridge, you think? Of course you do. You're doing great so far and soon leave behind the bridge, entering the mainland again where a red carpet was rolled out for you already. Now it's not far anymore at all. 3/4 done and the best is yet to come. Since leaving behind the bridge, scenery changed quite a bit. Now there are dunes to your right that hide the ocean behind them. You're very tempted to stop by for a little break at the beach, but then decide to just keep going. Sometimes it's just easier to stay in motion to not lose momentum. Cause you know yourself. If you now get comfy at the beach, you'll hardly get up again moving. You continue on a cycleway that meanders along the road and reminds you of a racetrack. And this feeling has an immediate impact on you, developing a mindset of a racer, taking the turns tight and pedaling pretty fast. After a few turns, your racetrack transforms into a straight line. You call it your finish line. There's the lagoon to your left, and if you wouldn't know, you'd easily mistake it for the ocean. On the water you can see a lot of sailboats that are in contrast to you, taking advantage of the wind. It's not that strong here compared to when you were on a bridge, as the houses to your right provide shelter, and since it's not blowing straight in your face, you don't mind it that much anymore. It's getting more lively now. You're passing tennis courts and a playground before you leave your red racetrack in order to take a right turn to get closer to the main attraction of the Costa Nova. The striped, colorful houses. These are the characteristic houses you wanted to see today. They used to be fishermen houses and then have been restored into beautiful homes and are a popular place for tourists to visit, just like you on your bicycle. There are all sorts of colors, blue, red, green, but you're aiming for a very specific one. And until you get there, you keep moving, getting forward with powerful pushes. This stunning view makes a surge of energy flow through your body and squeeze the last bit of speed out of your muscles, gaining momentum until you can see your final destination. There's a white and yellow striped house that now serves as a restaurant and looks just like a movie set. However, you're so amazed by these impressive houses that give a wonderful picture so that you keep going past your destination, taking a little extra round to be able to see a few more of the houses. You fall in love with a new house every instant, and then remember that it's not the first time today you pick a new house to your favorite one, literally every second. This trip was definitely worth it, easily compensating the struggle on a bridge fighting against the headwind. As often it pays off to keep going when it's the hardest. Sooner or later you'll get the credit for it, you say to yourself, enjoying the last meters, riding freehand, soaking up the sneering magical atmosphere here. Your mind and body are feeling great and happy, feeling the same positivity that those colors are radiating. You reach the cute little striped restaurant completely fulfilled. You've made it. I'm impressed. That's moments we move for.